Most people know the Omega Speedmaster is the moonwatch. It's the watch astronauts wore when they first stepped out onto the lunar surface. But here's the part no one knows. Behind the scenes, a company best known for cheap alarm clocks, General Time, and its Westclox division, quietly helped power the Apollo programme. And this isn't just faceless history for me. My mum, my aunt, and many members of my extended family worked for Westclox in Scotland in the 1960s, 70s and 80s. They were part of that story. Today I'll take you on a journey from a Scottish factory stamping out millions of clocks to miniature electronic chips riding aboard NASA spacecraft and technologies that reach all the way to the present day Mars rover missions. This is the never been told hidden story of Westclox and General Time. Westclox opened in Dumbarton in 1948, delayed nearly a decade because of World War II. Once up and running, it was massive. In its very first year, the factory was making 10,000 clocks per week. By 1950, they'd already built their 1 millionth clock. At peak output, the Dumbarton plant could turn out a finished retail box alarm clock every single minute. Over years, more than 50 million clocks came out of that site. Baby Bens, Big Bens, wristwatches, even special purpose timers. Products shipped to more than 110 countries, including Switzerland. Yes, at one point, Westclox Scotland was exporting clocks to the Swiss. And before we go any further, I'll just do a quick wrist check. I'm wearing a very video appropriate Bulova Lunar Pilot today. Fantastic watch, plus or minus 10 seconds per year, not per month, per year. Fantastic high frequency, temperature compensated quartz movement. My mum worked across several departments. She was a senior operator stamping out metal cases for Baby Ben and Big Ben alarm clocks. She also pressed out and assembled movements. Later on, she worked in quality assurance, checking acrylic crystals for flaws that could crack when pressed into a clock. She sometimes painted luminous material onto dials and hands, thankfully with non-radium lume. This was skilled industrial horology, and for families like mine, it was just everyday life. Like many manufacturers, Westclox hit tough times in the late 1960s. Cheap imports from Asia undercut the factory, and hundreds of Scottish workers were laid off. Petitions to Parliament led to anti-dumping laws, and production recovered. By the early 1970s, things were looking up again. The Queen, Prince Philip and Princess Anne even visited the Dumbarton plant in 1971. And while most of the world still thought of Dumbarton as a mechanical clock plant, behind the scenes the site was already home to dedicated quartz testing laboratories. These labs were used to measure oscillator accuracy, check crystal performance and run endurance testing on early quartz modules. Testimony from former staff and internal documentation confirm that this work was happening years before the famous 1974 Westclox Space Seminar. In other words, even while the factory was fighting off cheap imports, Dumbarton was also quietly helping General Time pivot into the electronics future. By the early 1960s, General Time was moving away from being just another clock company. In 1961, they created the Electronic System Division in Stamford, Connecticut. One of their first projects was the NEAR receiver, the National Emergency Alarm Repeater, a civil defence device basically designed to wake the population in case of nuclear attack. By 1962, General Time was producing solid-state clocks. That shift from mechanical gears to electronic timing was exactly what opened the door to aerospace and defence contracts. The Auditron wasn't a wristwatch movement, it was aimed at clocks and timers, but it proved General Time was capable of cutting-edge electronic horology. 1967 was the year General Time stopped being just a consumer brand and became a serious aerospace contractor. They made 3 pivotal acquisitions: Videomapper, a television electronics company, which was moved into the new Rolling Meadows Space and Systems division, where General Time established an office complex. Minelco, the miniature electronics component company based in Massachusetts, specialists in quartz and temperature compensation devices, and Lakeville Precision Moulding, producers of ultra-precise moulded components. With these, General Time now had expertise in aerospace imaging, miniaturised electronics, and high accuracy, high tolerance components. They weren't just making alarm clocks anymore, they were building the kind of parts catalogue spacecraft required. Minelco's chips were small, but they solved a huge problem. How do you keep a quartz oscillator stable when temperatures swing violently in space? Their solution: temperature compensation modules. Apollo-era circuit boards show 4 Minelco chips together, built-in redundancy so that if one failed, the others would keep the system running. That's the hallmark of fail-safe space engineering. These weren't toys, they were integrated into mission-critical systems, navigation, communications, and burn timing. And here's the kicker: I found auction listings for mission-used boards showing these exact Minelco parts, pulled from Apollo-era lunar landing modules. That's physical proof of General Time's direct involvement in flight-proven spacecraft electronics. In 1968, Minelco unveiled Micro-Mini BITE built-in test equipment. These were self-testing circuits that verified performance on the fly, perfect for satellites and spacecraft where you can't exactly swap out a faulty board on a whim. That same year, General Time bought Braincon, an oceanographic instruments company. At the time, NASA was running the spacecraft oceanography project, linking ocean science with satellite sensing. Braincon's oceanographic expertise, combined with General Time's electronics, extended their reach into space-based remote sensing. By the late 1960s, General Time shifted more production to its Athens plant, and suddenly workers noticed something. Security got tight, ID badges were issued, restricted access areas were introduced, compartmentalised work. The Athens plant was now taking offloaded work directly from Honeywell, another high-end military and space contractor with direct links into Bell Labs. General Time had established a seat at the highest echelon of top-secret military and space development. It was clear this wasn't just consumer clocks anymore. This was top-secret aerospace and defence production. In 1969, General Time's Space and Systems Division provided central timing equipment and funding for Apollo 8. This was the mission that carried astronauts around the moon for the very first time, and General Time was along for that ride. Central timing wasn't a small role, it was the master clock, the heartbeat of the entire mission. So yes, Westclox's parent company helped keep time on humanity's first journey to the moon. One of General Time's most important hubs was Rolling Meadows, Illinois. Their Space and Systems division had an office complex there that tied into major aerospace contractors, and that's where the continuity really matters. Grumman, now known as Northrop Grumman, the company behind the Apollo lunar module, has its own history in Rolling Meadows. That site became central to technologies that eventually powered the Mars rovers of today, with input from Cambridge University. In other words, some of the same technological lineage from General Time's Rolling Meadows Space and Systems division has carried forward into parts still in use on Mars today. From bedside clocks to Mars rovers, that's the scale of this hidden legacy. Back home in Scotland, Westclox Dumbarton carried on making millions of clocks. But by the mid-1970s, it had built a reputation as a centre for quartz research. Those in-house testing labs, already active in the late 60s and early 70s, made Dumbarton one of General Time's most advanced international sites. So in October 1974, when Westclox hosted a space seminar attended by Neil Armstrong and Sir Patrick Moore, the location made perfect sense. Dumbarton wasn't just stamping out baby Ben alarm clocks, it had become a hub for quartz experimentation and testing. By 1976, the Dumbarton plants had even been made General Time's International Operations Headquarters. The Scottish site had gone from a mass production factory to being the global headquarters of a company tied into NASA's most advanced missions. The Dumbarton factory sat right next door to Polaroid, whose instant film had NASA applications for rapid X-ray inspection and fieldwork. General Time itself was later acquired by Talley Industries, another aerospace and defence supplier, and then after that by Carpenter Technology, who are worthy of a Google search if you've got some time, another defence high-tech provider. It's all part of the same web of companies contributing to Cold War aerospace and NASA projects. And here's the irony: the quartz technology that helped Apollo, and that General Time helped to pioneer, also destroyed the mechanical clock business, essentially causing the quartz crisis. Who would have thought when Marie Curie's husband Pierre discovered the piezoelectric reaction that it would have led to here? Westclox's fully integrated Dumbarton plant was built for stamping metal, painting dials and assembling mechanical clocks. It wasn't designed for clean rooms and microelectronics of quartz production. By the 1980s, cheap imports from Asia dominated the market, and in 1988, after producing more than 50 million clocks, Westclox Dumbarton closed its doors. Incidentally, just a few years later, Grumman themselves hit severe financial woes and became Northrop Grumman. Those Cold War contracts had dried up fast, hurting many companies in this inner circle. Because here's the truth, this story has never been told in this form before. It has taken over 2 years of research to uncover, piece together and analyse, connecting factory life in Scotland to Minelco chips, to Apollo timing systems, to rolling Meadows, to Grumman, Bell Labs and even Mars rovers. And that matters because it changes how we see the legacy of General Time and Westclox. They weren't just alarm clock makers, they were part of humanity's journey into space. So next time you see an old baby Ben alarm clock, remember behind that simple dial lies a hidden legacy that stretches all the way to the moon and beyond. If you enjoyed this video, hit subscribe. And if you have your own family stories from Westclox or General Time, share them in the comments. They deserve to be told and remembered. And here's a little footnote to the story. Amid all those serious Cold War and Apollo contracts, General Time also invented the Time Mist, a mechanical bathroom air freshener. It was basically a clockwork mechanism that puffed fragrance into the atmosphere every few minutes. So yes, the same company that helped build Apollo's timing systems also kept public restrooms smelling fresh. From the Lunar to the Loo, that's General Time's story, and in its own way, that too is horology, accurate timekeeping, one spray at a time. And remember, collecting watches, it isn't logical, but it is horological.
William Bradford, speaking in 1630 of the founding of the Plymouth Bay Colony, said that all great and honorable actions are accompanied with great difficulty, and both must be enterprised and overcome with answerable courage. If this capsule history of our progress teaches us anything, it is that man in his quest for knowledge and progress is determined and cannot be deterred. The exploration of space will go ahead. Whether we join in it or not, we mean to be a part of it. We mean to lead it. For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon, and to the planets beyond. Our leadership in science and industry, our hopes for peace and security, our obligations to ourselves as well as others, all require us to make this effort. to solve these mysteries, to solve them for the good of all men. There is no strife, no prejudice, no national conflict in outer space as yet. Its hazards are hostile to us all. Its conquest deserves the best of all mankind. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon. We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they are easy, but because they are hard. Because that challenge is one that we're willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win.